Hey, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here. And as you know, I've been working on my top 100 board games of all time countdown list. And last video, I started talking about the 50 games that will not be appearing on my top 100 board games of all time through no fault of their own, simply because I either haven't been able to get them to the table often enough yet, or not at all yet. So, I wanted to present this second half of my list of the 50 games that you won't see on my top 100 list. So, in case you're watching my list and you're wondering, hey, where's this great game? Now you know why it's not mentioned on my top 100. So, without further ado, let's continue the list with number 26. Number 26, Lifeboat, is a game that I got to play with a very specific group of people. Unfortunately, this group of friends has not been able to get together very much this year, so Lifeboats has been sitting waiting to go and take to play with them. It's one of those games I think we're either going to absolutely love or absolutely hate. So until then, I'm waiting to find out which it is. And that's why it's still on my wish list. Now, number 27 is one of those games that I feel like I am doing a disservice to by not playing, and that's Legends of Andor. This game gets high praise from everyone that I hear talk about it. It looks fantastic. It looks like a story-driven game that just immerses you in the theme, and it just looks like it plays really well. And I'm saving it really for the right place and the right time to play with my whole family, and that just hasn't materialized yet. But I'm hoping that Legends of Andor hits the table soon, and I'm hoping it goes from being some sort of legendary mythical game to one that we've actually played. Number 28 on my list is a variation on a game I do have and have played, and that's Legendary Encounters Alien. Now, I have Legendary Marvel, and my wife and I enjoy it and play it quite a bit. But the Legendary Encounter system added those missions and a few different ways to the way that the card mechanics work together. And it looked really intriguing. And I've been trying to figure out a way to kind of incorporate those new twists into just Marvel Legendary and kind of use that card set to work in that same manner. But until then, Legendary Encounter Alien is one I do want to play. I just haven't invested the time or money into it, of course, because I already have Legendary Marvel. And so that's why, even as intriguing as it is, and I think I'd like it maybe even a little bit more, it's still sitting in wishlist mode. And that's where it's at. Number 29 is a game called Legacy, where you're building your family tree. It's a game that looks interesting and gets a lot of good buzz. It's just one of those that, admittedly, given the choice between it and something else, the something else keeps on getting picked instead. So it's gathering more and more dust, unfortunately. But I still do want to find a time to brush off that dust and get it to the table. But until then, Legacy continues to be waiting on my wish list, waiting for that right time when there's no other fancier thing that distracts from playing it. Number 30 on my list is a game about climbing a mountain called K2. Now this one, I actually got interested in, and it was really hard to find. I searched for it for a long time, finally found a copy, scooped it up, and then held on to it because the people I so far have proposed playing it with haven't been interested in it. So that's kind of a weird corner to get yourself painted into. But that's why K2 still sits unplayed in my collection, waiting for that right group, the right time, so that I can get it off my shelf and onto the table. Until then, that's where it sits. Okay, number 31 is a little bit of a cheat because this is a game that I have played, but it's been years since I've played it, and that's Hero Quest. I had this when I was in my early teens, and I played it, and I lost all the pieces, and it's been long gone. But a couple years ago, a copy of it became available in a charity auction. So I scooped this guy up. It was in pristine condition, and I have it actually waiting on my shelf till my daughter gets a little bit older to introduce her to it as like her first dungeon crawl. So Hero Quest, have played it, but it's been forever. It very well could have made it on my top 100, I'd say, but for now I categorized it on this wish list instead, just because I am purposefully not playing the copy I have yet until I can introduce it to my daughter. Number 32 is a dungeon crawler of sorts, but with superheroes, called Guardians Chronicles. Poor Guardians Chronicles. The lack of enthusiasm from the reviewer community and what people have seen with their own experience reading the rules has prevented this game from hitting the table just due to people's lack of enthusiasm for it. So I'm still holding out hope that it will deliver a fun superhero board gaming experience. But for now, it waits to be powered up, and that's why it sits on my shelf. That's number something, and you know what, I'm going to say it was 32, because I might have a list right here that I'm looking at, and that's Guardians Chronicles, number 32 on my list, without even looking. Number 33 is a game I don't have, but I just want to play because it looks like a wonderful just mess of fun, and that's Fortune and Glory. This is another one that I've heard talked about on a podcast I listen to, and every time I hear them describe the fun they have playing this ridiculous game, the more and more that I want to play it. So again, I don't have a copy of it myself, so I'm kind of waiting until one of our larger gaming convention days when a lot of people from town bring all their games together. I'm hoping someone brings Fortune and Glory and I get to play it then. But until then, can't wait for this one. Number 34 is a game that I got a couple years ago during my admittedly high-octane acquisition period where a lot of games were coming into my collection at one time. And this is a game called Fortress America. And my best friend actually saw it on my shelf one day, and he visibly started to drool. And he's like, I had an old copy, like the Avalon Hill copy of that when I was a kid. I didn't even realize that it had been around that long. And so we have plans to sit down and play it together, but we live just far enough away that the number of times that we're able to get together have become fewer and further between. So it's on our list to do, but we just haven't got around to it yet. But when we do, I'm really looking forward to it, not only because of the game itself, but also because some of the memories I know that it will give my friend, and also some of the new memories that we'll generate together. So that's Fortress America, one of those games that's waiting for the right time and the right place. So number 35 on my list is a bigger, meatier game called Food Chain Magnate. Now, this game I haven't played yet. Heck, I don't even have a copy of it in my collection, simply because this game is currently impossible to get a copy of. It's impossible to find. It's just sold out. So neither I nor anyone I know actually has a copy of it yet. So I kind of have it on my wish list, my pre-order list, waiting for a copy to come in. And when it does, I'm hoping to get it played and see if it's top 100 worthy. Number 36 is a game where I get to embarrass myself. I've mentioned Fields of Arle in previous videos as a game that I got specifically to play with my wife because she is a master strategist and she would love this type of game. And no, it still hasn't hit the table yet. We have played other games together. In fact, this last year, we've been playing more and more games in our spare time, which is really special and neat. But Fields of Arle just hasn't been one of them yet. But it is in the queue. And we've gotten it out of the box and looked through it and gotten overwhelmed and put it back on the shelf and picked out something else. But we are working our way to it. And I hope that soon we will work our way all the way into it and find out if it's top 100 worthy. All right, I've already talked about Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition being too big and heavy and too long with too many people involved to really be able to get to the table consistently at all. So a smaller game with that same feel to it is Exodus Proxima Centauri, which I absolutely am fascinated by, and I like the idea of it. I've also heard a game called Eclipse be mentioned that's similar to Twilight Imperium, except Eclipse focuses on the resource management and Euro aspects of Twilight Imperium, while Exodus focuses on more of the combat and the Ameritrash aspects of Twilight Imperium, and that's why I'm drawn to Exodus. But again, with all its bits and pieces and amount to ingest before you can play it, it just has not hit the table yet. But I am really hoping that I have an excuse to get Exodus Proxima Centauri to the table after I memorize exactly how to pronounce it. Hey, let's continue being embarrassed with number 38, which is Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia. I'm a big fan of Jamie Stegmaier, not only his games, but the way he runs his fundraising campaigns. And Euphoria is one of those that I am intrigued in and want to play, but every time I do, a different Euro-y type game ends up hitting the table instead, just due to what's new. So, Euphoria continues to be on my wish list, and we'll see if it can actually make its way onto the table soon. Oh, another game that I wish that you would see on my top 100 list, but just hasn't had a chance to be entered into consideration yet, is Dark Moon. This game looks fantastic. This looks like the type of social deduction, you get to be a little bit of a jerk game that is just made for me. But with the number of players that it requires, I just have not been able to be in a situation where I've been able to play it with the full complement of people yet. So Dark Moon sits in the shadows on my wish list, and you won't see it on my top 100. Now, number 40 is a game that I got really early on when I was getting back into modern board games. And admittedly, I didn't get this game to play originally. I got it just for its components. And that is Crude. I got Crude because it has these wonderful little plastic gas stations and oil rigs and oil derricks and everything. And after I got it and I was just looking at the components, I read through the rules as an afterthought and realized this game sounds awesome. And it's though very basic looking board, just kind of a 2x2 grid of spaces and such. And I think it just doesn't have enough flash to get some other people's attention. Additionally, this game seems to be optimized for exactly 4 players. So it's had those challenges to get it to the table. But I'm hoping that when it does, everyone who takes the time to play it will be thoroughly impressed, and hopefully this game will work its way on my top 100. But for now, it's still just sitting in its box with its fantastic looking little pieces. Alright, as long as I'm admitting games that I got just for their components, number 41 is Conquest of the Empire. My friendly local game shop was a couple years ago was having its year-end clearance sale, and they had Conquest of the Empire on sale for like $12 or something. It was just absurd. They had a stack of them. So I grabbed one, got it home, opened the box, and it's like, oh, these pieces are fantastic! And so I put it on my shelf right next to Crude to sit forever, apparently. I almost contemplated going back and getting a second copy just to have more of those components. But that's not the point of this list. The point of this list is that this game, even with its fantastic components, I know that there's supposed to be a really good game in here, and I want to get it to the table, but it's just one of those. Again, same old story, keeps getting overlooked for other stuff. So maybe I just need to rattle my spear and tell people, hey, we're going to play this game. And that's probably a really bad idea, especially if I do it that way. Hey, let's go play a game. Yeah, that doesn't work. Let's move on to number 43. Oh, number 43 is one of those games that I would love to play, but just no one else around me seems to have the interest to do so, and that is Captains of Industry. This is a very interesting looking economic game where the players set all the prices and rules of the economy as you're playing. So it's very dynamic in that respect. At least I believe it would be, because every time I describe it to someone, they look at me like they just threw up a little bit in their mouth, and they decide to play something else instead. Sometimes with other people. So far my track record with Captains of Industry has not been the best. Alright, so recently on a lark, I started listening to some old episodes of the Dice Tower audio podcast. And way back in like 2006 and 2007, this game called Battle Lore was a frequently discussed game on their podcast. And this was just the first edition. And eventually a second edition, which was improved and revised and made even neater, was introduced. And so I scooped up Battle Lore 2nd edition. And it's still has not made its way onto the table yet. So I must admit that Battle Lore 2nd Edition is a game that you won't see on my top 100. And honestly, if, of all the games on my list, it's probably the one it's right up there with the ones I'm most ashamed about. So, shame. So if Battle Lore hasn't hit the table yet, what chance does the Battle of the Five Armies, number 45 on my list, have? This is a fantastic looking game which is super in-depth, and yes, it's on my shelf partly to be a companion to War of the Ring, which is also on the same wish list, but the Battle of Hopefully the Battle of Five Armies will hit the table soon, because it's one of those that I really cannot wait to watch my wife beat me at. Okay, number 46 is one that is on my shelf simply because I was kind of a latecomer to the game, and that's Arcadia Quest. I waited a long time to finally invest in Arcadia Quest, so it has not been sitting on my shelf very long, I'm happy to say. It's just kind of a newer addition that I'm working my way towards. But Arcadia Quest looks fun, fast, and fantastic, so I'm hoping that by the next time I do a video on this context, it'll be off my wish list for a long time, and hopefully on my top 100, because I think Arcadia Quest has what it takes. Number 47 is Alchemists, a game that has a lot of moving pieces, and one of those moving pieces is an app that you use to play the game. And with all of those bits and pieces combined and the little bit of the learning curve there, it hasn't hit the table with my own family. And also at my local game club, it hasn't hit the table. So that's why Alchemists sits waiting. I'm looking forward to playing it, but I just haven't been in the right place with the right group of people to dial it into yet. That didn't make really any sense, did it? So number 48 is Age of Empires, which I believe is now called Age of Discovery. So it's a bad sign when a game has been on your shelf so long that it's actually been renamed. So this game is a neat Euro game, which has been around for a long time. And I think that's kind of been the detriment that's kept it from getting played, because a lot of the Euro gamers that I play have been playing Euro games for a lot longer than I've been on the scene. So I think they've already played this and it's run their course with them. So they're always moving on to the next Euro games and stuff. And so trying to introduce this one is like, oh yeah, remember this old favorite, this old classic one that you're done with and you've played out? You know, you don't want it? Okay, you've moved on. So it's been kind of difficult to find an audience for the Age of Empires 3. But I am hopeful that a rather large meteor will soon skim by the Earth fast enough that it'll kick our rotation backwards for a while, just enough that we'll all go backwards in time to the point where it's a brand new game that they haven't played yet, and I can reintroduce it and get it to the table with them there. See? A lot of these games haven't got to the table, but I do have a plan. All right, number 49 on my list is the embarrassing to admit Seven Wonders Duel. I've had at least 3 or 4 opportunities, or near opportunities, to play this game. The most recent one being at Dice Tower Con just a couple months ago. A friend of mine and I were going to play it. We went to the library to check it out, and it was taken. And we came back a little bit later and had just been checked out right before we got there. And this repeated pretty much the entire convention. And that has been the case with Seven Wonders Duel most often in my experience. Either someone else is playing the copy of it that's available, or it's been checked out of the library. So it seems like the universe doesn't want me to play this game yet. So I'm waiting for that perfect time when the stars align and everything is just right, and poof, it magically appears in front of me and I get to play it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it doesn't require a giant meteor strike like Age of Empires 3. Because really, how many of those can there be? I mean, maybe 2 a year. So I really want to get it played before then. I mean, come on, it's just ridiculous. I'm not a patient man. And the 50th game that will not be appearing on my top 100 list, but probably could given the chance to actually play it, is 504. Now, this one, admittedly, may be a long shot because it has not garnered the best reviews in the world. However, it does seem to have earned some respect in being a fantastic study in game design itself. And for that reason alone, I want to give 504 a chance. But whoo! The learning curve on this game is steep, and the return on your investment has not always been said to be the best. But still, regardless, I want to get 504 to the table, give it a fair shake, give it a try, and really kind of find out a lot more about what this game is about and how it plays. And will it hit the top 100 after that? I'm not sure, but I'm really, really intrigued to find out given the chance. Well, there you go. 50 games that you will not be seeing on my top 100 board games of all time list through no fault of their own. So, of these 50 games that I have not played, which ones have you played? More importantly, of the ones that you've played, which ones do you think are actually the best contenders to earn their way onto my top 100 list? Let me know in the comments below, because I'd be really interested to find out, because those might be the ones that I start with first. But until next time, I've been Chaz Marler, counting things up and counting things down due to contractual obligations. Take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
No one can get a copy of it, so that's why it's still waiting on my wish list. That's Food Chain Magnate! So I think I need to be more of an advocate. Avocado. I need to... Ugh. I don't have a funny introduction or anything prepared. Just go with just the list. Let's go to the list.